Hello everyone, I'm bringing you the Mannequin of the Month for May 2025 today. As is usual, the topic we're going to talk about was chosen via a poll over on Patreon, and it's the corporal tier over there that gets to vote each month, of course. The topic we're talking about here is the kit of a private in 3RAR, the 3rd Battalion of the Royal Australian Regiment, serving in Korea in the winter of 1950-51 through into the earlier spring of 1951, when cold weather clothing and so forth would still be worn. And we have a really cosmopolitan mix of uniform and equipment on the Mannequin here, and we'll talk a bit about that, of course, as we move this round. It's a real mix of equipment, which was not atypical of 3RAR at the time. Looking at photographs, there's a real mishmash of all sorts of different bits and pieces, all sorts of different kit, different origins, and some of it issued and some of it acquired. And that's an example, but that's certainly exemplified rather by what we have on the Mannequin here. We'll start at the top and work our way down as we normally do with these things. And at the top here, of course, we have the headgear, which is an Australian slouch hat. And this is a fairly battered example, but not wholly inappropriate in that regard for a soldier who's been through the winter of 1950-51 in Korea. No puggaree on this, which is fairly common to see at the time as well. Puggarees removed, not universal. Some of them were worn with puggarees, but puggarees are also seen removed in photographs as well. So we have the slouch hat there. Sometimes swapped out for cold weather headgear, American issue cold weather headgear in some instances, the pile cap, cap comforters in certain instances as well, but the slouch hat does turn up, and it can be even in the colder months in Korea, and it can really be an individual preference thing. You can see within a unit different forms of headgear worn within an individual unit. It's not even sort of on a unit by sub-unit basis within 3RAR. It's individuals wearing different forms of headgear within a unit, within a sub-unit. So the slouch hat there at the top. The uniform that we can see here is of US origin. This, of course, is the M1943, with the jacket from the M1943 combat uniform. And these were extensively used by 3RAR in the early part of the war before British combat uniform arrived on the scene and was issued out to Australian troops as well. And of course it was used by British troops in Korea in the early days as well, somewhat ubiquitous in that regard. And it was issued in certain instances and acquired in certain other instances as well. Certainly during the retreat during 1950, there were large dumps, and the men of 28th Brigade and 3RAR were able to acquire uniform from American dumps which were being destroyed, basically. So you have a good example of that here, the M1943 combat jacket. 2 breast pockets, of course, 2 hip pockets, bellows pockets on the chest here. Quite a nice design, quite a good design for the period. Of course, it would be modified in US service and developed during the course of the Korean War to form a better cold weather uniform. We have that here, the M1943 combat jacket, as I say, of US origin. There'll be a few more details to look at on this as we move the Mannequin round. At the waist, we also have an element of US equipment, and that is the cartridge belt from basically designed for the Garand. Well, prior to that, of course, designed for use with the Springfield rifle, and then this version designed for use primarily with the Garand rifle. In this case, being used to carry British 303 ammunition or British Commonwealth 303 ammunition in 5-round charges, 2 per pocket, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pockets on each side, giving you 50 rounds on each side, a total of 100 rounds carried in the belt here. Now, this is not a particularly common piece of kit adopted by Australian soldiers in Korea, but it is seen from time to time in photographs that the American cartridge belts, the US cartridge belts, were sort of swapped out for elements of the British style, the 1937 pattern equipment, which was of course standard issue to Australian troops at the time. So I thought I'd illustrate that point here on the Mannequin by including this. This of course is the darker OD version of this. There will be a mix and match of OD and the earlier tan US equipment in use in Korea, and we just happen to have an example of the late war, post-war production in dark OD here. And as we'll see, there's more US equipment slung on this, and that's actually in the earlier tan colour, and it would be common to see amongst US forces at the time a mix and match of different tones, different colours of webbing, and I've replicated that here on the Mannequin as well with this equipment which has been acquired by this hypothetical Australian soldier. We'll start moving this around now and have a look at some of the other details we can see on the Mannequin. Looking at the side profile of the Mannequin here, you can see the side profile of the slouch hat up here, 2 ventilation eyelets up there. You can see the supporting straps, the L straps for the pack, which is carried on the back, and you can see the side of the pack there, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. These straps here, which are a little bit easier to see, I think this way around, certainly with the hooks and so forth, when looking at the side of this. These are Canadian made, of course, very common in for Australian issue equipment of the time is for elements to be Canadian made. Large quantities of Canadian equipment were provided to Australia during the Second World War and remained in Australian stores and Australian stocks for issuing out. So we have Canadian made L straps, shoulder straps for the pack there. The arm, the combat uniform coming down here, you can see there's no specific elbow reinforcement or anything. You do have an adjustable cuff there, and that's buttoned up tight there to obviously gusset in there to keep all the air inside this and make it a better cold weather garment. And you can see the pockets coming around the side here, and these are all full of inert 303, so they are properly loaded with inert 303 in charges there. And you can see the 5 of those pockets coming around on the right hip here. And then suspended from the cartridge belt, we have a US M1910 canteen in the M1910 canteen cover here, and this is a mid-Second War production example in this tan finish, as you can see, which would still have been on issue during the Korean War, that you do see a mix of equipment in the different shades, the earlier tan and the later OG or OD finish which we have here, and you can see the stark contrast between the two. We'll move this around now and have a look at the back, talk about the pack a little bit more. Looking at the back of the Mannequin here, you can see the pack from the 1937 pattern equipment is carried. This, of course, actually dates back to the 1908 equipment in terms of design. Fairly well packed out. You often see these loaded with even more than this, maybe a ground sheet cape and a blanket rolled up on top. You occasionally see US folding entrenching tools carried, just sort of jammed through the straps on the back of these as well. In terms of use by Australian troops, that's just something to note here. But this is fairly well packed out with kit, obviously gives a much greater carrying capacity than the haversack, or colloquially referred to as a small pack. So that actually carrying the pack as we have here does give you that greater carrying capacity. And this is set up with the supporting straps crossing over the back, which of course attach on to the shoulder straps or L straps and allow this to be carried on the back. So we have that there. The supporting straps are Canadian made. I don't know the origin of the pack itself. All the markings have worn out of this, but a Canadian made pack would have been typical, but Australian made, various other sources wouldn't have been uncommon as well at this time. So again, quite cosmopolitan from that point of view of where the kit has originated. You can just see the bottom of the cartridge belt possibly here as well, coming around at the back. Obviously you've got the joining piece. These cartridge belts are made in 3 pieces. So you have the 2 sides which have the pockets on them, and then around the back here you have a piece that joins that together and allows adjustment, even adjustment on each side. And of course there are eyelets running down the bottom. You can see that here, possibly a little bit more clearly than in the side shot, where the M1910 hanger hooks allow for the suspension of the canteen round on the hip there. So we have that there, that's the back of the Mannequin. We'll move this round now to have a look at the left-hand side. Looking at the left-hand side of the Mannequin here, there's not a huge amount more to talk about. Looking at the hat again, starting at the top, you can see the press stud or snap up on the side of the hat here to secure the brim when that's worn turned up. Obviously in the field, they were generally worn with the brim turned down, so we have an example of that here. Epaulette on the shoulder of the combat jacket, I didn't mention that before, but the combat jacket does have epaulettes, as you can see. If we lift the arm out of the way again, we can have another look at the cartridge belt here. You can see that row of lower eyelets I mentioned before a little bit more clearly here, perhaps because we don't have the canteen on this side, of course. And there are eyelets at the top. These could be supported by suspenders if required. Obviously, in this case, it's just slung around the waist and sits on the hips, which is copied off the photographs at the time, which seen these in use with Australian troops. But obviously in US service, if required, suspenders could be used with the cartridge belt. But they are very much designed to sort of sit around the hips and be worn without any other means of support if required. And that's what we have here. So that's the left-hand side of the Mannequin. Not much more to talk about there because it's primarily a mirror image of the other side, other than not having the canteen there. So I hope you found this interesting. As I say, this is a little bit contrived to sort of show an example or one example of the real mishmash of kit that was going on at the time, certainly for certain individuals in 3R AR. Many more men would stick with the 1937 pattern equipment than would take US equipment as we see here, but certainly use of the M1943 combat jacket was somewhat ubiquitous, worn over the service dress uniform, the wool service jacket and shirt and so forth, or worn just over the shirt in warmer months. So that's something to note here. I didn't mention at the start, is that this could potentially have been worn over the wool uniform for extra warmth, and in that regard giving a sort of extra outer windproof layer, quite an effective garment in that regard. So That's a quick look at this Mannequin, as I say, just to look at the sort of cosmopolitan mix of kit you could see at the time in certain instances. And as I say, I hope it has been interesting from that point of view. If you have found this interesting and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my videos and you'd like to support the channel, or indeed if you'd like to vote on what's coming up each month in Mannequin of the Month, Patreon is linked down below, and it's the corporal tier over there that gets to vote each month on what's going to be covered. There are generally 3 options in the poll, and basically you get to vote on one of those 3 options, and the one that gets the most votes is what I talk about each month. PayPal is also linked down below as well, and a big thank you to everybody who supports the channel using Patreon or PayPal. It really is hugely appreciated. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below, and there will be photos of this posted up on social media as well if you'd like to have a closer look. And if you'd like to get in touch with me but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address in the description as well. I've been a little bit remiss and not been able to check that recently due to various other things going on, so I will be checking that soon. And if you want to get in touch with me, that's another option rather than using social media. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.